Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Dick Briggs, ready to discuss a little bit of high school and college wrestling here in the state of Iowa. As always, we'll kind of start with college. But first, Coach, I'm walking into Carver yesterday, light sweatshirt on, sunny, breaking a sweat. This is not a wrestling. These are not wrestling temperatures. This isn't wrestling weather that I'm used to.
Isn't that the truth?
Especially
That's
January.
47 degrees. I just looked before we went on. 47 degrees right now. Wow.
Yeah. Which I joke, it means we're probably driving home in a blizzard from the state wrestling finals.
Usually one day is pretty bad, or at least you get a little bit of both at the state tournament typically. But this is great. I mean, the rest of the country is really having some rough weather, but not us. So I'm enjoying it.
I am as well. Well, let's jump into, the colleges are in the thick of their conference dual season now. We got to see Iowa State, UNI start their conference meets starting last Thursday. We're just kind of going chronological order. Thursday, UNI hosted Wyoming and just absolutely dominated the Cowboys. I think it was 33-3. That ends up being Doug Schwab's 100th win. I know things didn't quite go their way later in the weekend against Missouri, but still the dominant performance, and then a decent showing against the Tigers, you might say. Not a bad weekend for the Panthers. A big milestone for Schwab.
Right. The Missouri is a good team. So let's back to Wyoming though. You're right, 33-3, and I'm not sure exactly who UNI's 74-pounder is going to be right now. I think they're still trying to figure that out. I'm not sure what's going on there, but that was their one loss, and really,
I think Runyon got banged up in his match to return down in New Orleans. I think Runyon got banged up.
Is that what's going on? I didn't know if he was out for the season or what, but okay, so
I don't know.
There's their starter out there, so and may have swept Wyoming, but then on to Missouri. Missouri's a great team. Holy cow, they've got three really strong. Well, I guess O'Toole didn't wrestle, but you've got Brock Mahler at 49 and Rocky Elam at 97 that are two-time All-Americans. And then O'Toole was a national champ. He was out of the lineup at 65. But anyway, that allowed Yount to, not that Yount might not have won already, but he got a nice win there and to remain undefeated on the season. So he's been out a little bit, but still undefeated right now. So UNI's got rolling. Congratulations to Coach Schwab, and let's see if we can break that record of the coach that holds the most wins.
And that is
that'd be Brother Don.
what is his I don't have the media guide in front of me, but do you know off the top of your head how many dual wins that Don had during his coaching tenure there?
I don't. I can't even venture a guess. I should. I just heard it this past fall when he was honored in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Was it just a member of that? So, but I don't remember. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's something we can look up here and have ready for next for next week. But yeah, definitely kind of maybe one that hasn't gotten kind of the focus. I mean, that's a pretty nice milestone for Schwab and the work that he's done there at UNI.
Right. And he's still relatively young. He's going to be there,
Right.
Hopefully for, quite a few more years and decades, maybe even. And, putting some All-Americans up there and some champs and lots of dual wins. So, that program's, in my opinion, it's looking strong and doing a great job.
We'll shift. Well, one of the individual performances, kind of want to mention, Derek Holschlag had a really good weekend there. He wrestled and beat Wyoming's number 9th ranked Jacob Wright at 157 on Thursday. He was one of 4 Panthers to win against Missouri. And I believe he had a decision beating Logan Jaffrey 3-1. So Derek Holschlag's putting together actually a pretty strong season there at 157 for the Panthers.
I would agree. He's stepping forward, and sorry I didn't mention that nice win at over Wyoming's right. But yeah, I mean, it's we watch his brother has some great success, and
right.
It's nice now to see him stepping up, and he's up to that next level and just keep climbing that ladder right up to towards the top there. That's great.
Let's shift to Iowa. Actually, right now they open the Big Ten dual season. Beat Illinois on Friday at home, and then went to West Lafayette to beat Purdue pretty handily. Friday, I guess you could say it was a little lackluster. Went down to the final match before beating Illinois 25-19. Tom Brand's I could say maybe not real satisfied with performance against Illinois. They lost a couple close matches. One in overtime at 174, one in the final seconds at 197. Didn't like the way Iowa wrestlers let Illinois keep it close and score at the end. Even though they did enough to get by with a victory.
Yeah, lackluster from an Iowa standpoint. I bet you if you're an Illinois fan sitting in the stands, it was pretty exciting.
Yeah,
putting it that close or keeping it that close and having a shot going into that last match. But yeah, that definitely from the Iowa point of view, I don't know how anyone can be real excited about that. Had some guys that that gave up big losses, pin, that sort of thing. So definitely not what Iowa is used to. So I'm sure that there was some words said before the Purdue meet on Sunday. So
and they looked a lot better Sunday as far as really kind of dictating pace and tempo, and seemed a lot more aggressive. Maybe some of that is the maybe the competition, but over the weekend, Spencer Lee being in the lineup, I think a lot of people were kind of wondering how much you'd actually see of Spencer Lee this year, whether it would be a drop in here there until the postseason. But he wrestled in the Iowa State duel, wrestled in the Soldier Salute, and here he's been part of the first weekend in both duels, and now he's in the probable lineup for Northwestern on this upcoming Friday. So I'm sure a lot of Iowa fans are happy to see Spencer Lee as much as they are.
Well, right, and Spencer had a little bit of a test on against Purdue on Sunday. Ramos, good wrestler, ranked 9th in some polls in that vicinity, in most of them, and got let me see if I remember this right. Did he get 2 takedowns in a turn? Was it 8-1 or 6-0 or something like that?
So it was 2 takedowns, and the second takedown was a throw to.
That's right.
To Lee's back. So
right, so he's down 8-1, and in watching that, you're like, I still didn't think that, Spencer was in any danger. I know it certainly made me sit upright, but he's so deadly on top, and as soon as he got up and got that arm trap, it's like, okay, here we go, match time. So and and then of course the pin right after that. So first period pin, but he came back and did what that's going to happen. That's what that's wrestling. Guys are going to maybe get a move and get turned or whatever, and just got to battle that back. So he did a nice job of that. But, and then also they had Schriever up it bumped up a weight for that duel. I'm not sure why. At Tusky at 41 for the Illinois meet, and then Schriever bumped up there. And then, but what about Max Murin, man? That guy's putting it out there. He's putting some points on the board this year.
He is. The other one thing before we move on to Max that I want to mention Spencer Lee. So I was on the gym class yesterday with Mark Dukes and Scott Unash, and we were talking about it. And I kind of start giggling in mid response to Spencer Lee, having to come back and stuff. It's like the thing about it is he was down 8-1, and it wasn't against it wasn't against a fish or anybody. It was a guy that's projected to be round of 12, possibly on the stand. Not only did he come back and win and maybe catch the guy late or scored in the final seconds, he erased an 8-1 deficit in a matter of like 75 seconds and then pinned the guy before the end of the first period. So all that happened in 2 minutes and 56 seconds. To be able to do that against a decent opponent just shows, it really is kind of, unbelievable a little bit that, he's just that good that, Randy Lewis-ish, right?
Yeah.
Isaiah Martinez, there are a couple times where I saw Isaiah Martinez. I know at the Midlands one year, Isaiah Martinez liked to mix things up, and he got thrown to his back twice. And I think he was like a takedown away from being teched. Comes back and wins like 24-22 or something like that. It was just amazing. And Randy Lewis, that was a guy that, 8-1, that was a Tuesday for him. He used to have some insane flurries and giving up 4, 5, 6 points. That was just business as usual because he knew he would score 12. It was crazy like that. But like you mentioned, speaking of putting up a lot of points, Max Murin just has, outside of the Pinero Johnson match, he has probably been the most aggressive and offensive wrestler, and certainly the best version of Max Murin that I've seen in his career.
Yeah, I agree. It's been fun because it's been a little bit frustrating as a fan watching him kind of keep it close. And there's he's not the only one on that team that does that. There's others that will on occasion do that, but I know the fan base at Iowa would really like to see what Max is doing now. I wish we would have seen that all along, but yeah, good for him for opening it up. And maybe he's got senioritis, the kind that says, man, this is my last shot. I got to get it going. Leave nothing behind sort of attitude.
Yep. And at the media availability yesterday, kind of asked him about, he's got 7 bonus point victories this year, which is more than he's had any other year, and almost like 2/3 of his total in his career have occurred this year. And kind of asked him about, before, remember seeing him with like a black eye and cuts over his head, and the joke was that he always led with his face. and he was always stingy, with giving up points. But this year, something that happened at the end of last year, I think he's mentioning that he might have lost the blood round match, or his last match at Nationals was a match where it was won by one takedown. And apparently Terry Brands had a heart-to-heart talk with him about how that shouldn't happen. A match decided by one takedown is unacceptable. And you've got to keep firing off. You got to keep doing it. If you give up a takedown, you escape, you're a takedown away from taking the lead. So you got to open up. You got to be aggressive. You got to be offensive. And I think it really clicked. I think it really clicked with him.
Yeah, I mean, something has. So that makes it fun. It's more exciting, for the fans and for the teammates, and obviously helps the team more when you put more team points up on the board. And so let's hope it continues that way.
I certainly don't want to say it's on par with this comparison, but I see the similarities. Remember the jump that Thomas Gilman made from like his sophomore to junior year, where he went from winning a lot of tight matches just by, one takedown, hard ride, riding time point, and not giving up anything his sophomore year, if I remember correctly. And then he was a takedown offensive machine where he was just, he was just racking up takedowns, by the bagful. And I kind of see maybe a little similarity to where outside of that Iowa State duel, Mirren's been that way.
Right. I think it's a mindset. So, Terry Brands must have got into him, and I'm sure it wasn't just that talk, that they've been working, with the mental side of it, and just, it's a confidence thing. So if you're confident, you go out and score points whenever you want, even if you give up a couple, why wouldn't you go out and open up and wrestle? So, that's neat. And I'm sure that was a Gilman thing. And I'm thinking it's a Mirren thing as well. So,
and don't underestimate a point that you brought up too. This is his last go round. This is it, and how many times have you been in a 5K and seen the finish line and you get a little bit of a second wind and a burst to finish strong, right? You can see the end goal in front of you. This could be a realization that, hey, I got 2 months,
right.
Whether he wrestles freestyle internationally or not, doesn't matter. His collegiate career has 2 months to go. And you know what? I don't want to get to March 24th looking back and going, oh man, I had so much more I could have, if only I would have done this, or only if I would have, just not cared about giving up points and scored a heck of a lot more. And, he could be in that realization that I don't want to do that a week after Tulsa. And we're seeing that kind of being executed.
Right. And if you, you think about it, here's a guy that could have graduated last year. Now he's into his 6th year. You have to forfeit some things along the way, probably, to do that. Not probably. I know that as a fact. And so now he's in his 6th year, and it's like, I didn't come back and maybe forfeit this, or maybe even pay out a little bit of money here or there, or whatever for class or whatever. But I didn't do that to be ho hum about this. I'm going for the gold sort of attitude. So, yep, absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing to kind of point out a little bit too, Patrick Kennedy in Illinois was probably one of the exceptions, like Mirren, like Spencer Lee. He scored a major decision against Danny Bronigal, was really, really offensive. Got a kick out of his post meet press conference where I asked him about, where physicality kind of comes in to his style of wrestling. And he's like, hey, I grew up with 3 older sisters and 2 brothers. We had to scrap every day. They had to scrap just to get food at the table. And it's funny. I know his sister Corey was a part of Minnesota State's state championship softball team, so really good athletes and competitors there. But it's kind of interesting how maybe growing up in that environment really kind of hones those traits, and certainly is a big part of his success here in the lineup this year.
Yeah, one last thing on Murin. He's going to have a test this weekend with Yaya Thomas. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And so we'll see. Hopefully we're going to find out right away. If he's the real thing this year for sure. So
yeah, there could be a lot. There's going to be a lot of action that match. Well, they let loose. Might give the scorekeeper carpal tunnel trying to keep up with everything.
Might bring some of the fans out of there.
Yeah, right. Speaking of Northwestern, the other matchup that really kind of stands out, heavyweight, Tony Cassiope, Lucas Davison. That's another one to really kind of keep an eye on, and that's just kind of indicative of the Big Ten. I'm looking at Win magazine right now, and the Big Ten is loaded when it comes to heavyweights. And these top 4 are pretty consistent for all polls, where you've got Kirk Valletta, Penn State 1, Mason Paris 2, Cassiope 3, Lucas Davison 4. So 4 top-ranked heavyweights in the country are in the Big Ten, and then you've got Pilcher from Wisconsin. That's a borderline top 10 guy. You've got Orndorff from Ohio State, which is a top 12 to top 15 guy, regardless of the polls. And that's 6 of possibly the top 12 from the Big Ten. So this Friday, Cassiope and Davidson is kind of a microcosm of the heavyweight division in the Big Ten overall.
Right. And I mean, if you're looking at up and down the lineup with Northwestern, they're a good team. I mean, they're ranked 11th, but they may, who knows, they could sneak up on Iowa here. And I mean, we kind of overlook anyone that steps on the mat with Spencer Lee, but D'Agostino is ranked as high as 3rd in one of the rankings, so 3rd and 4th in that vicinity. And you've got a lot of equal, similar type rankings throughout the lineup. So this is not a cakewalk. They're going to have to be sharp to get this victory. So.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You've got Chris Cannon at 133 as well. Brody Teske returning to the lineup against Purdue for the first time since the opener against Cal Baptist. So, it's not going to be kind of the normal Northwestern type duel that many people might look at. And let's not forget, Northwestern won the Midlands this year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And that 133 match is a perfect example of what I was mentioning with similar rankings. You've got Teske, who's ranked 11th in a couple of 12th in a couple of polls, and then you've got Cannon, who's ranked in that same vicinity, maybe just a little above 11th. And so those matches are going to be critical swing matches that right now are kind of toss-ups. So,
nope, I agree totally. Well, let's head over to Central Iowa and talk about the weekend that Iowa State put together and what the rewards they've kind of reaped from that. Iowa State handled Wyoming as well. And then they followed that up with a 19-15 win over Arizona State. The two schools split the 10 matches. But it was Iowa State winning the first 5. They started at 157 and kind of rolled to the first 5 wins. We got a tech fall from David Carr. You got a major from Julian Broderson, and then a major from Younger Bastida that ended up being the difference against Arizona State.
Yeah, they split 5-5 in matches, and ISU won the first 5, and ASU the last 5, like you said, and gosh, what a meet that must have been. But for number 3 versus number 4, I don't know. I know Iowa State's ranked number 3 this week that I saw, and I don't know if they just swapped rankings, or I don't know how far ASU fell. But what a good meet that was, and what a fun one that must have been to be at. It's not very fun though to win your first 5 and then not win the next 5 and try and hang on with the duel. So that in itself was nail biting, I'm sure, for the coaches and the athletes and fans.
Yeah, but even in those 5 losses, outside of maybe 133, they were right there in each of those matches. Sam Schuler lost to Colton Schultz from Arizona State 3-2. So he was right there in it. Caleb Fesley, the former center pointer Banna Prep, filling in for Tarakina and Kabamban, and they've had a lot of injuries at 125. He wrestled Richie Figueroa to 7-5 decision, and then Casey Swiderski and Panero Johnson losing in sudden victory. Johnson losing to Parco, who's an All-American. People remember he wrestled for Steiner at Fresno State before transferring after Fresno State dropped their program. But no moral victory in losing 5 straight to close the match and having to hold on. But they were really close in those bouts. Competed really well.
You mentioned Tarakina and Kabamban being out of the lineup, but also for ASU, Brandon Courtney was out of the lineup as well. So that certainly probably made the difference there for ASU. But
sure, but Figueroa is pretty good. Figueroa's got some good wins this season wrestling in tournaments. So
right, so that might not have made the difference. I mean, so you got if it still comes down to a decision, if both of those schools have their normal wrestlers in there, it still ends up a decision and Iowa State wins. So, you have that. You can't go with who's not there. You got to go with who's there, and control what you can control. And they did it. They got the win.
Right. I think they said this was the first top 5 victory for Iowa State in Hilton Coliseum since 2009. It's their 3rd win over a top 3 opponent in the last 14 seasons. We saw what Kevin Dresser did at Virginia Tech, elevating that into a national trophy winning team. Are we seeing the blueprint really kind of starting to take form and kind of rendering the results that they were hopeful with when Dresser took over at Iowa State?
Oh, for sure. I mean, look at this season alone. I think they probably started being ranked in the middle to lower teens this year, and they battled all the way up to 3rd, had some nice wins. So there's, obviously, I don't know that they'll hold the number 3, and if that's the dual ranking and not, I think that's the dual ranking and not tournament ranking, but so we'll see. And he's definitely got them going and believing in themselves. And like the Johnson loss and sudden victory in Swiderski. I mean, those are two of their young wrestlers that have shown shown me that they're the real deal. And you saw, so to lose those, I'm sure they're disappointed there. And they're looking at it going, it shouldn't have been 19-15. It should have been worse.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So that's a good place to be as a coach and as an athlete, because you're hungry and you're still working forward and not sitting up on top, thinking you're all that and then some. You can't, you don't have time to do that. So
Sure.
Yep.
And just going off dual rankings from Win Magazine, or tournament and dual rankings from Win Magazine, just because that's what I have in front of me at the moment. Iowa State's number 3 in duals. Arizona State to number 4. And then tournament rankings. Excuse me. They have Penn State 1, Iowa 2, Missouri 3, Iowa State 4, a spot ahead of Cornell. So Iowa State just right in that 3-4 area, both dual wise and tournament wise, according to Win. So that's just kudos to what they've done at Iowa State. Finally, kind of getting that back, and what I think a lot of people had hoped would be 2 top 5 teams, and then again, you and I right there. Win has them number 9, dual wise, back a little bit farther tournament wise, but I think that's a team that can really jump up from number 17, and is more like a top 10 to top 12 type tournament team.
Well, that's right. Anyway. I think it's been quite a number of years since UNI was in top 10. They've been flirting with it real close, and I don't think they ended up there a couple years ago. But so even a top 10 finish for UNI would be very nice. But
I would even say top 12. That I'm sure Doug Schwab isn't pointing to 12th as being really successful. You know what I mean? But I think from the outsider looking in, I think UNI at 12 would be, a really good accomplishment and a step forward. And, to be honest with you, you got Parker Keckeisen, definitely a top 3, possibly a Saturday night guy, depending on how 84 kind of shakes out. Kyle Biscaglia, Cale Happel, Colin Real Buto, Derek Holschlag have had really good seasons, and they certainly could, contend for a round of 12, possible podium type spots. The one that, even Yant at 165 has done well. The one that I really kind of point to that I think could really catch some guys off guard, and that would be maybe kind of a sleeper pick. We'll see how he does the rest of the season, but don't sleep on Terrell Gordon. A lot of things can just boil down to one move, one takedown. You stay in good position at heavyweight, you probably are going to be there in position to win it late, and a lot of things can happen. I think Gordon is somebody that could provide a huge boost for the Panthers, as they try to get to that 10-12 type spot.
And I have 3 that fall in that category, in addition to some of that you had already mentioned, or supporting what you'd already mentioned. I just think Cale Happel is I just like what he's doing this year. In terms of Gordon, he's athletic. He's such an athletic. He's an undersized heavyweight, but he's athletic enough that you get in that third period when you're huffing and puffing, and that athleticism and conditioning can really win some matches for you. And then don't forget coach. Don't forget as I forget Runyon in there as
Oh
well.
yeah.
It's Cradle and such. So there's another guy that could jump in there and get a medal too. I think I don't know what his injury is or what it's going on there, but if he's
Yeah.
healthy, for sure he's a threat.
And right now, Runyon still in wins rankings. He's number 13 in the latest win ranking. So they must be expecting him to come back. We'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, Runyon's another one that kind of reminds me a little bit Schwarm. Schwarm that wrestled 25 for you and I. He could lock up a cradle and was dangerous regardless of what the score was at any time. And Runyon's got that same type of dangerous feel to him.
Right. Yeah, Shorn was didn't he lead the country in falls? Was last year, the year before? So anyway, yeah, absolutely. Runyon's got that. You never know. He can. He's a threat to put that on from about any position too. So absolutely.
Let's talk about the national duels that were this week for D1 or D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO. But in a couple of women's divisions, hats off to Grandview coming away with their 11th straight NWCA multi-divisional dual title. They hammered Life University in the final 22-8. They actually shut out their quarterfinal and semifinal opponents, Reinhardt and Doan. They're 7-1 overall, and their only loss came to Iowa State earlier this season. So obviously, Grandview maintaining their dominance top NAIA field.
Right. I think you mentioned it, but I'll just echo it. 11 straight dual titles here. So they weren't. They weren't tested at all. I mean, they lose maybe 4 matches, maybe 5 matches, the entire tournament.
The whole bracket. So
yeah, and so and those and not to take away from the men's, but the Grandview women were also in the tournament, and there's 16 teams that were there, and they finished second, 3-1, and they lost to Southern Oregon 22-18. So they were right there in the hunt for that national title there as well. So anyway, Iowa Wesleyan, I'll just mention this, on the women's side went 1-3 and finished 13th, and Morningside went 1-3 on the men's side and finished 8th. So that was the other Iowa teams that were in the NAIA.
And then at the Division III level, Wartburg comes away with a 3rd place finish. Johnson and Wales with an upset in the semifinals, 21-19, getting a big pin at 157 from William Hughes against David Hollingsworth, and they got another kind of a bonus point upset at 184 with Ryan DeVivo getting a major decision over Wartburg's number 4 Jordan Bushy. So a couple of upsets fueled Johnson and Wales to a runner-up finish to Augsburg.
Right, Wartburg went in number 1 ranked and number 1 seeded, and lost in the semifinals. So, like you said, to JWU, and I in looking at the lineup, I was personally disappointed in Chris Rump, who went 0-3 on the weekend and got.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if he got pinned in that duel or not. And then you had the matchup at 174 with the former Wartburg wrestler Michael Ross that defeated Mulder again in that match, and I'm sure that was a big turning point as well in that duel.
Wartburg did bounce back with a 27-9 victory over Wisconsin lacrosse, coached by our friend Dave Malachek. Augsburg won 35-8 in the finals over Johnston and Wales. Co, I think, suffered an opening round loss, and then might have won a couple on the backside.
Right, Co. I was watching that duel, and it was a 19-19 dual meet. Again, it was against RIT, and RIT had won 6 matches to Co's 4, and that was the criteria that put them over for a 20-19 win.
Okay.
The disappointing part there is Co lost 5 straight from 157 to 197, and
Wow.
they've got some strong wrestlers in there, and so that had to been disappointing in the loss there. And then they came back and won their 3 in the they puts them into the 17-24 bracket, and they ended up 17th. That's the best they can do that if you lose your first round. Yeah, so I know they're disappointed, and they're a better team than that without question. So we'll see them improve for sure.
Upper Iowa in the D2 bracket, they had a pretty successful weekend, in my opinion. Won a couple earlier duels against McKendree, Fort Hays State. Suffered their first loss Friday to St. Cloud State, which, I mean, we know we've talked about before. St. Cloud State, D2 power. So that's nothing to really hang your heads about. And they didn't. They bounced back Saturday with a pretty impressive win over Nebraska Kearney, and then finished 6th overall. But a big win against the Lopers.
Right, exactly. And St. Cloud State was seeded 3rd, the defending champs for I think however many they've won in a row now, and then came back and won the tournament. So that, yeah, losing to the eventual champions is not a bad deal. Upper Iowa did a nice job, like you said, took 6 and went 3-2 on the weekend, and had a good showing. I think coach has got to be pretty excited with that group he's got up there.
Yeah, that win against Nebraska Kearney. Tate Murdy at 141 had a pin. The former Monticello prep, Chase Lensman, had a decision at 165, and then Dalton Hahn had a decision at 197 in that duel. We mentioned Hahn coming back after like a 2-year hiatus too. So some good things there. They did lose the 5th-seeded Lander for 5th place and ended up 6th, but they also wrestled a handful of reserves and backups in that placing duel as well. So, Upper Iowa's 4-2 right now, so I think Heath Grimm's got to be pretty happy with the way they performed.
Right, and I'm going to bounce back to D3 because we had 3 other Iowa teams that did a nice job, really. University of Dubuque wrestled in it, and they went 2-2. They lost their last duel to Co, so they took 18th, but they had a good showing there. Loras went 3-2, finished 6th, and they lost to Augsburg, the eventual champions, in the quarters, 24-12. So they had a good showing there. And then maybe the best performing team, Iowa team in there, at least one that's went home maybe feeling the best about themselves, was Luther. Luther had a great tournament. I think they went 4-2 and finished at 9th overall. And they went 29-12 with Augsburg and beat Wabash 30-19.
Oh wow!
It was 2nd last year, and right on the tail of Wartburg last year. So anyway, they also beat Wisconsin Whitewater. A couple of things that happened in those that I'm with the Shinholzer, who was a 184-pound champion last year. In the Loras duel, Whitewater wrestled Loras, and so Loris won that meet, but in that meet, Shinholster wrestled Legal, the two national champions, and Legal had beaten him earlier in the year. Now Shinholster beat him in this match. So they've
Really?
split with each other. And then Shinholster also beat Donovan Korn for Luther, who's having a real good season, beat him 8-0.
Right.
So I always wondered why Korn dropped down to 84, but so I wonder if he'll stay there or maybe bounce back up to 97 or whatever. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
With him.
Yeah. But a good weekend for Shinholz, and that'll be fun to try to wade through seedings later on, especially since those two have split. Assuming they don't cross paths again before the postseason.
And we don't know what I had mentioned this earlier in one of the podcasts. We don't know what the other national champion from 174 that evidently was ranked early on at 84, Beecham, is going to be. I haven't seen him where he's wrestling. I don't know if he's back to 74 or what. So I'm going to keep an eye out there and let us know, because that's that weight class that had 3 national champions at it early on.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to see how that all plays out as the season goes along. Any other college notes that you have, or any last thoughts?
I guess that was it. That National Duals is a very fun tournament to be at. It's fun to watch from afar, and because we got a lot of Iowa kids that compete in that, that were Iowa high school kids now at Iowa colleges and other colleges. But so for me, that's a lot of fun to see how those Iowa kids do and the teams. So.
For sure. Let's switch gears to preps now. Programs getting right back into the weekend competition after the break. Some big tournaments. You're at Anamosa for the girls tournament up there. I was at Benton Community for the annual Bobcat Jerry Eckenrod Invitational. Kind of give my 2 cents about the Eckenrod. Always one of the most fun and competitive multi-class tournaments that we have in the area, and there was no difference this time around. Don Bosco came away with the team title. They had a tournament high 4 champions. Waukee Northwest, they had 3 champions, which was second most, and then Union had 2 champs, which was third most for champs, which tells you a little bit about West Delaware's depth. They only had 1 champion, 3 finalists, but comfortably second place behind Don Bosco that had 6 in the finals. So a really strong performance by Don Bosco, but then also a real balanced performance from West Delaware to finish second, ahead of the likes of Waukee Northwest, Williamsburg, Davenport Assumption in that mix.
Well, and there's in a tournament that big, and you had 8 different teams that had champions. You mentioned Union had 2, and they finished 9th as a team. So that's that. Got really spread out. Don Bosco had 9 in the top 4, 6 in the finals, and then West Delaware equal had 9 in the top 4, and then Waukee had 5, and Assumption 6, and so forth. So it's spread out, and that's why it gets pretty thin in terms of the scoring there, in terms of point differential. So makes it for a fun tournament.
Yep. Mentioned those 2 Union champs. They came at 106 and 113. Chase Hedeman looked really good. Defeated West Liberty's Colin Cassidy in the finals. Wasn't a major, but he was in control the whole way. That was a rematch of last year's state semifinals and a 1-versus-2 matchup. So Jace Hedeman of Union remains undefeated, getting a big win against Cassidy like that. Really shows that he's on track to win his second title. Braden Bodensack was pretty strong, winning the 106 title for Union as well. Kofax Christensen, actually from Waukee Northwest, won the 120-pound bracket and was named the outstanding wrestler, which is saying something when you have the likes of Hedeman, and some of those Don Bosco champs coming away. His teammate Carter Freeman as well. He had a pretty dominant performance for Waukee Northwest. Christensen did winning that award.
Having not seen it, I don't have any problem. Dominant wrestler and defending champ, right? Defending champ.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So.
Yep. West Delaware did have a champ in Will Ward. Carson Turnus and Logan Payton both got second. But Will Ward, made the podium last year. Had an outstanding football season. If you followed it, he was all-state running back. And he's really kind of continued making gains and improving. That was something where he was down big. He was down 6-1 going into the third period and kind of stormed back and then got a fall of his own. So really good showing by Ward, who just kind of keeps making gains as well. We had two other area champs in Caleb Bridgewater, who continues to, just dominate. And, he hasn't lost since his opener where he got called for an illegal slam, I believe. Or no, it was a defensive fall. His only lost game in a neutral or defensive fall, not a DQ. But he's been on a roll and wrestling well. And then Gable Dayton came away with a 182-pound title for Williamsburg, who actually beat West Delaware in a duel just a couple of days before the Eckenrod.
Right. And duels and tournaments are a total different animal, but and actually a different day too. Obviously, that makes that. I mean that in the fact that different things happen. That's why you wrestle them, right? We've seen that a number of times this year that matches or meets have been reversed. So that's not uncommon. But it's good for West Delaware to rebound and really show dominance. They finished second, Williamsburg sixth. So.
Yep. And Don Bosco's win, I tell you what, 1A is going to be so. This might be the most fun 1A tournament that I can remember in a long time.
I was just thinking that same thing. 1 and 3A are both going to be, 2A right now. I'm giving it to the edge, the Osages, but then who knows what could happen there as well. So,
but 1A, you've got 4 teams. Obviously, Don Bosco's there. We've seen what Wilton's done. And actually, Wilton just topped Alburnett for a team title at the Gary Curtis Invitational at Highlands. So you've got Don Bosco, you've got Wilton, you've got Alburnett, and Lisbon. They've had some struggles just because they've had some injuries and illness. But here in the next week or two, Brad Smith is expecting to have some of those guys back into the lineup, and they tell you what, I wouldn't count them out, and you've got four teams that really could be battling it out for it.
So did you really say I wouldn't count out? I don't know that I ever have. So, but yeah, but with that being said, it can get spread kind of thin. So it might take only 4 real strong finishes by 4 wrestlers to win the title. If the teams scores start getting spread out and not one team really piling it on and getting so that's what makes it exciting though and fun.
For sure. The Ames Jack Mendenhall tournament invitational was this Saturday as well. Ankeny came away with a team title. Fort Dodge was runner up, but Cedar Rapids Prairie just 4 points back of Fort Dodge in the team race. The Hawks finished 3rd. Got runner-up finishes from Dylan Munson at 106 and Blake Jimo at 120. Carter Dolly was 3rd at heavyweight, but I don't know. That's a pretty good showing for the Hawks.
If my notes are right, and I hope they are, they had 10 in the top 5. Is that right?
Wow.
So good balance for sure. I looked at it yesterday, so I'm not. I think that's right, but wow. Like you said, a couple of runner-ups in Blake Giamo and Dylan Munson. So that those lighter weight guys going strong for Prairie. But City High was also there. Of course, they walked away with three champs and a couple of runner-ups, so 5 in the finals. So
and they finished 5th overall as a team. Got titles from Cale Seaton at 126. Gabe Arnold at 182 and Ben Keeter at 220. Ben Keeter, of course, finally getting back from Florida. We got to cover the Linmar Iowa City High Dual last Thursday. Gabe Arnold with a big win against Tate Nakaborn, but no Ben Keeter because flight trouble and flight cancellations, trying to come back from being in the Under Armour All-American game in Florida earlier that week.
Right. I mean, who knows what it was, weather related, but now I saw in the news there's something to do with the computer, the landings. So now all sorts of probably cancellations going on today, but at least he's back in the state and wrestling. And then Cale Kurtz was a runner-up. He lost to a Nebraska wrestler, so not an Iowa wrestler. And then Jake Mitchell also was second as their other finalists. So Mitchell's coming on a little bit, I think. So that's good to see.
What do you think about the Arnold Nakaborn 2? That was a match. Arnold won 3-1. A lot closer than their match at the Donnybrook early December. But that was a fun match as far as I was concerned to watch.
Right. And there was 3-1 sounds like not much action going on, but that first period, there was a lot of attempts, takedowns, and a lot of good defense. And then Arnold got his takedown right with less than 10 seconds left in the period and got the right out. And that ended up being the difference in the match right there. But there was some real good battle by both wrestlers in that. It was a good match.
So the interesting thing is there's a lot of mutual respect between those two. Kind of talking to each one of them about the other. There's a lot of mutual respect. Obviously, a mark of a true competitor is they like having those challenges, and they realize that each one of them kind of provides that for the other. And I don't think that's going to be the last time we see them cross paths here in the next few weeks. I'm guessing we're going to see them at the MVC tournament, Super Conference tournament, Super Meet at the end of this month. Off the top of my head, I can't remember where they are for districts. But certainly at the state meet, that's a match we expect to see Saturday night.
Have the district assignments been posted yet? Gosh, I haven't seen
Yeah,
them.
yes.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. Huh. Well, to echo what you're saying, having talked with both of those young men, they sure seem like nice guys, and Arnold and Octoborn, and really a lot of the wrestlers, Linmar that I've spoken with more there because we've been there more.
Right.
But, the park and the Nocturborns, and this weekend I got to work with Grant Kress. What a nice young man. And
Really?
it was a lot of the wrestlers there, but he in particular really just did a nice job this weekend at the youth tournament. So good kids, and it warms your heart, I guess, to see that, and hear that. So you wish the best for those kind of guys.
So City High goes to Bettendorf for their district, and Linmar goes to Marshalltown for its district. So they're heading separate directions. So more than likely we'll see a matchup between the two at the MVC meet, and then possibly in Des Moines, if all kind of goes according to seed or ranking anyway.
You can tell that I'm out of the coaching frame of mind because I would have told you the exact minute they came out in the past, but now it's I'm not obviously not as concerned with it.
And I guess since we kind of mentioned this, let's just I'm going to list off the 3A districts since I have them up, and we haven't really touched on them yet. At Bettendorf, you got Bettendorf, Burlington, Davenport North, Davenport West, Dubuque Senior, Fort Madison, City High, and Iowa City Liberty. So Bettendorf and City High kind of leading the way in that one. District 2 at Carlisle, you've got Ames, Ankeny, Bondurant, Farrar, Carlisle, Des Moines, Lincoln, North Polk, Pella, and Waukee. So, you've got Ankeny and a couple others there. Cedar Rapids, Jefferson, your old stomping grounds. They're hosting District 3, where you've got Jefferson, Kennedy, Washington, Clear Creek, Amana, Marion, Atumwa, Prairie, as we mentioned, how they did at Ames, and then you've got Waverly Shell Rock, who's a team looking to contend for a state title as well there. So Fort Dodge in District 4, you've got Dowling, Fort Dodge, Lamar's, Sioux City Schools, Spencer, Storm Lake, and West Des Moines Valley, who interestingly will be at Jefferson this weekend for the Jayhawk Invitational. District 5, you've got Council Bluffs Schools, Dallas Center Grimes, Denison Schleswig, Des Moines Roosevelt, Johnston, Lewis Central, Waukee Northwest. Saw Dallas Center Grimes headed champ at Benton Community this weekend. But Waukee Northwest, Johnson seem to be kind of top two in that district. At Marshalltown, where we mentioned Linmar is going, there's Ankeny Centennial, Cedar Falls, the host Bobcats, Mason City, Waterloo East and West, and then Xavier. So, Linmar, maybe followed by Ankeny Centennial, the top two. The Marshalltown district, North Scott will host Clinton, Davenport Central, Dubuque Hempstead, Iowa City West, Muscatine, North Scott, Pleasant Valley, Western Dubuque. That might be one of the more balanced and competitive districts when you look at kind of where Hempstead is, North Scott, Pleasant Valley, Western Dubuque, some of the individuals that Iowa City West brings to the table as well. So that might be one of the more balanced and competitive fields in 3A. And then the last one at Norwalk, you got Boone, Des Moines East, Des Moines Hoover North, Indianola, Newton, Norwalk, Southeast Polk, and Urbandale. Say Southeast Polk and Indianola, certainly the top two teams there. So what are your thoughts about those assignments?
Well, it sounds like, I was just checking, it sounds like that Marshalltown tournament where you've got, Dubuque Hempstead coming all the way down from there, you got Muscatine coming up or over or whatever. And so that one really spreads out. But a lot of those teams I think are at Jefferson this weekend. At least they have been in the past. Hempstead, Muscatine, Marshalltown, so you might get a little taste of that this Saturday at Jefferson. Let's see, I'm looking at that right now. Muscatine's there. Marshalltown is not there, I guess, this year. And
yeah, they have been in the past though, but
yeah, I'm surprised. Actually, I don't see Hempstead either, so never mind.
yeah, well, you do have a couple of those Davenport schools. You've got Pleasant Valley, Muscatine. The thing that I'm kind of interested in seeing, you got Waukee Northwest, and you've got West Des Moines Valley in there as well, with City High. And Alburnett, as far as the small schools go. That'll be fun to see all that kind of shake out
Right. And
on Saturday.
the Fort Dodge is coming over. They've got another strong team too.
Yep.
So, yep.
Yeah. So, even though some of them won't be the kind of the district preview, but still going to be really good action there at Jefferson on Saturday. One last thing from the boys that I'll just kind of touch on, and I want to ask you about the Anamosa girls tournament. Linmar had their duels, had kind of a get together or celebration of Doug Stryker. That was really cool. If you saw the photos and everything, a lot of wrestlers and coaches from the past came to honor him. He's surpassed 400 duels at the end of last season, or dual victories at the end of last season, and they're having a really good year this year, so that's kind of neat. The Lions did win the dual tournament, beat Mount Vernon 41-27 in the finals. Western Dubuque ended up third over Lamar's for who got fourth. They beat Lamar. Western Dubuque beat Lamar's 35-34. Top 8 finished out with Clear Creek Amana in 5th. Let's see, Xavier was 7th, and then Marion was 8th. Xavier winning that duel for 7th, 47-16.
Before we get to the girls, I thought it might be noteworthy. The Brooklyn tournament, your alma mater, and my former team that I coached, the Warriors, Washington Warriors, took second there.
Wow.
And they had champions at 106, Brennan Gears, and at 132, Isaiah Price. They had 3 seconds and 2/3, so they had a good showing there. West Marshall won that, good strong team, and then APGC. Let's see, is that Parkersburg and Grundy Center? I think Applington, APGC, maybe. Anyway, one of the alphabet soup ones.
Maybe, yeah.
And then Monticello was 4th, so good showing there. At the Anamosa tournament, what a great turnout it was. And Brett Jones, the athletic director up there, does a real good job, and they're excited. They have a gym they're going to be building on that's going to be very similar. This is Brett Jones's words, very similar to Williamsburg's gym, but it'll
really?
200 more. So
wow.
I love Williamsburg's gym. I think it's one of the best in the state, certainly for that size of a school.
Love Williamsburg's facility. Their gym and their football field.
Right.
Absolutely love their facilities out there.
I think
their gym's fun.
I think
you can actually watch football games from the gym. They have windows. You can actually stand on the concourse on the one end of the gymnasium and look out to the football field. I don't know if it's a great view, but you can at least do it if you really need it to.
Right. And evidently there's going to be a 4-lane track above the gym there. So it's going to be Nice facility, it sounds like. So anyway, on to the tournament. There's a 6-person bracket, and there were 16 teams there. There was 137 girls. Now, to compare that with the Gary Curtis at Highland, there were 17 teams there and 144 boys. So actually, the girls averaged more per on their team than the boys did. The 17 teams that the Gary Curtis did. So good turnout. And Cedar Falls, who won the Battle of Waterloo, they were there and they won the tournament. They had 2 champs, and they're bookend champs. They're 100-pounder, which is the lightest girls' weight, and the 235-pounder, which is the heaviest. So we got the bookends going there. And then they had 5 seconds and 3/3. So a real strong finish for Cedar Falls there. Some local ones. Benton Shellsburg had 3 champs in 110 Bree Swenson, 130 Chloe Sanders, 140 Sadie Burke. Anamosa. Sorry, Jonesy. Anamosa had 1 champ at 115, Addison Musher, and then they had 3 runners up. Let's see. Of note, Linmar was there, took 4th, and they had 2 runners up and 2/3. Jefferson was 6th out of 16, and they had 8 in the top 8. Solon had a champ in McKenna Rogers. Independence had a champ in Dakota Whitman for some of the local teams there. So it was a great day, really fun. They had it on. They had 3 mats set up until the place rounds, and then they broke it down to 2 mats and did the 5th and 6th, or 7th and 8th, 5th and 6th, and then the final round of 1st and 3rd. So it was a good day wrestling up there.
Did you mention Mount Vernon's Libby Dix won at 170?
I did not. I forgot about Libby. I certainly remember watching her wrestle too. Sorry about that.
And then you mentioned how well Jefferson and Linmar did. Their top performers, Josephine Budadera was 3rd at 140 for Jefferson. And then those 2 runner-ups that you mentioned for Linmar, Haley Setrum, 140, and then Trinity Young at 225. So I know talking to Brett Jones before, last week and stuff before their tournament, they made a concerted effort to make sure Saturday's tournament was regional like, that it gave a regional feel. They didn't want it to be a scramble. No offense to the scrambles and stuff like that, but they wanted this to feel and play out, to give wrestlers an experience of what they were going to face and experience at the super regionals here in a few weeks. Did you being a part of it, do you feel that that was successful and they were able to do that?
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said, I don't think there's been, not that I'm aware of anyway, tournaments that have done that before. I know Ames had a girls tournament this weekend at the Mendenhall. They had 10 teams there. So I honestly didn't look at the brackets there to see if they were 16 person brackets or not, but it definitely had that feel for sure. And he accomplished his goal. And I think everyone walked away. Oh, and I have to mention this. I was sitting, of course, on Matt's. I was off on that as an official. And at the end of the 100-pound match, the 100-pound wrestler ran over and jumped into her coach's arms, just like it was a state title. Really? So, I mean, Jonesy mentioned it, and I looked in and I said, that's what makes all this hard work worth it for you. Because, that was what a nice reward to see that.
Yeah.
That just tells you it's important to those girls, just like it is to the boys. So good for them.
Yep. Oh, for sure. That's awesome. One other girls tournament I want to mention. North Scott had a girls tournament this weekend as well. Prairie and Kennedy were down there, as well as Clear Creek Amana. Prairie had 4 champs. Maya Roush at 100, Mackenzie and Madison Childers at 125, 135, and then Claire Heenick at 145. Cedar Rapids Kennedy's Ella Brown won the 190 bracket. And then Marley McBride was a champ for Clear Creek Amana. I want to say McBride might have been our G. White Schultz performer of the duel when we had the Clear Creek Amana Mount Vernon doubleheader.
I think that's right. I think you're right.
So it's good to see Marlon McBride win the 110-pound title there at North Scott as well.
Interesting note with the Childers. Kenzie's been wrestling forever. She's very accomplished and has won medals at state the last few years. And then her sister Maddie was a swimmer. Jefferson and Prairie combined the swimming programs, and so she was a swimmer on the Jefferson team, and was with my daughter. This is her first year of wrestling, so here she is winning a tournament. So that's good to see her. And they're not, to me, they're different types of girls. Kinsey, who's get after it, wrestling type, and Madison's kind of more reserved. So for her to get out there and do that is that's really neat. I'm happy to see that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. This weekend we mentioned the Jayhawk a little bit, and what we're going to see there. The Ed Haydenfeld tournament at Solon is also going on this weekend. Lisbon, they got third at Frapola last weekend. Finished behind Nashua Plainfield and Wapsie Valley. They had two champs in Brandon Paez, Wyatt Smith. Paez, who's surpassed 150 career wins since the break. Lisbon will be there at the field at Solon to go along with Clear Creek Amana, CPU, Dyke New Hartford, Iowa City Liberty, North Cedar. North Scott is listed there. I'm not sure if that's a varsity or JV crew, even though it says they have 14 wrestlers listed. Pella, Solon, Vinton Schellsberg, who obviously has Cooper Sanders, Curtis Erickson that we mentioned from earlier. Ranked wrestlers in 2A, West Branch and West Liberty. West Liberty led by Colin Cassidy and I believe Drake. Is it Collins, the 170 pounder? There for West Liberty. So that's the field there. Marion has their Lloyd Schaefer Invitational this weekend, obviously named for the late former Marion coach. And they have a pretty good field out there. You've got Atlantic, Benton Community, Cedar Rapids Kennedy is listed, Keokuk, Louisa Muscatine, Maquoketa, Monticello, North Butler, Northland. They've welcomed Overland Park, Blue Valley Northwest out of Kansas. Wilton will be there, as well as Williamsburg and Xavier. So some of the good fields there. And one other thing I kind of want to mention, a big Tri-Rivers Conference duel on Thursday. It's actually a triangular. You've got Albernet, Northland at Lisbon. So really looking forward to see Albernet and Lisbon tangle this week.
Yep, that'll be fun to be there. We'll be covering it, so that'll be a neat one.
Where are you going to be? Where are you going to be this weekend?
I'm at the Jayhawk.
So you'll be at the Jayhawk seeing that tournament there, which will be fun. One thing I just want to know, I know this is a high school version, not the college version, but just got word that Spencer Lee was named wrestler of the week for the Big Ten. Trying to see who we might share that honor with.
Maybe Branigal. Have I seen that?
Could be Branigal. It doesn't Doesn't say in the Iowa press. No, actually, you're right. It does say sharing the weekly honor with Zach Bronigal. Obviously, the win over Warner at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and he followed that up with another win over Wisconsin's Braxton Amos. So, good weekend for him, and then sharing that with Spencer Lee. So, um, any other thoughts or any final words from the prep side of things, or from last week, or what might be coming up?
We could go on and on, but we better end it somewhere.
Yeah,
It's been good wrestling, very fun.
right. So yeah, we're getting into the nitty gritty here. Uh, we're less than 3 weeks away from regional duels. We're even less than that. Just a little 2 weeks out from those regionals for girls, for their state qualifier, and just a little over 3 weeks from their state tournament at Extreme Arena in Iowa City. So we're getting the postseason is rapidly approaching. Still a lot of wrestling to go, but it's going to be here in a blink of an eye.
Yep. 2
All
weeks.
right. Well, just to let you all know, you can check out our Gazette coverage. Gazette, which turned 140 years old yesterday on Tuesday. So big milestone of privately owned papers, not big company Canet type publication. So that's a big milestone for the company. You can check out all our coverage online at thegazette.com and iowaprepsports.com. We're going to be at Lisbon on Thursday night. You're going to be at the Jayhawk on Saturday. I'm going to either be at the Jayhawk or the Lloyd Schaefer invite, one of the two, on Saturday as well. And just like to thank everybody for watching. And Coach, why don't you finish things off?
Okay, before I do that, 140 years ago makes it 1882, is that right? Holy cow.
1883.
1883 or 83, right? Hello. New Year. All right, let's end it. Let's keep wrestling on the move.